Hey, in the last episode, we discussed how to be more engaging on Zooms and Teams meeting. And I promised you to talk about, well, how do we actually deepen our impact and become so magnetically yourself that people can't stop watching or listening to you? Yeah, that is a bit of a goal I've set myself here. Let me try to answer this as best as I can. Obviously, this is the work that I do, and if it could be transmitted in a simple information video, you would have already gotten the skill from YouTube. But let's see what we can do to make you really see what's possible for you. When you become magnetic, charismatic, develop executive presence, leadership presence, the impact of that is that you will be taken seriously, valued, have more career opportunities, and have a lot more fun doing the things that a leader is tasked with doing. Am I right? So the question now becomes, how do we do this? Thanks to the amazing opportunities we have now to curate polished content at the snap of a finger, thank you AI, the gap between how you can present yourself in written form and how you show up in person is widening. And also the trap is that everybody's now talking about becoming really authentic, but at the same time is expecting themselves to be absolutely flawless with it. So we are aiming for flawless authenticity, authentic flawlessness. How is that going to really work out? Do you see that is an oxymoron, yes? And what I've seen people do is take one or the other and then making an excuse. So for example, we'll go, oh, well, what's really becoming important in the age of AI is that we are so authentic. We need to be more authentic. And now I'm going to use the word authentic in so many ways and variations until the word authentic becomes the most inauthentic thing that you've ever heard. Completely overused, losing its meaning. But so important to be authentic. Yes. Okay, so what does it mean? Oh, it just means being me in the moment. Okay, so it means being me in the moment even though I might be nervous, underprepared, and totally not on point in the moment? Yeah, at least you were authentic. That might be authentic, but is that really good enough? I think authenticity is really well paired with skill. So my recommendation is to invest in the skill of learning to become more at ease, speaking with power. But authenticity in the sense of just the raw, real me isn't really what you bring to a stage. Let's put it this way. When you're at home after work, you're in a very different persona to when you show up at the office, right? Yeah, that's not because it's wrong or because there's a character flaw here. It's because it's a whole different place. Of course you behave differently at home than you do at the office. Of course you behave differently speaking to a client that you already like, that has already done business with you, than presenting to a new audience. Of course you do. So the idea of authenticity gets a bit tricky here. What is authentic on a stage? I'm going to suggest that your authenticity is a degree of comfort rather than being the pajama you. Okay, now let's talk about the flawlessness. Perfectionism is a thing. I get it. I really do. I love being great, don't you? So there is a difference to me between high standards and perfectionism. Perfectionism is a slight obsession with having to be flawless, and having a high standard is a really good idea. So I want you to keep your high standards and improve on your skills and keep developing. I think that's a beautiful thing to do. And that's very different from the obsession of having to be flawless. Okay. But what I see is that people are using the idea of authenticity to excuse their lack of skill. And I see people using the obsession of wanting to be flawless to excuse that they're not able to let themselves be seen. Shall we let that sink in? So to allow yourself to let yourself be seen means that we're willing to show up a bit goofy, expressed, vulnerable. Vulnerable means that you can be hurt in that space. I've just had a picture taken with celebrity chef Matt Tabbitt, and I was so proud because I introduced him and I hosted a cooking demo with him, and it was so fun. And I thought, now I'm going to have the amazing picture of me and him. That'd be amazing. The picture came out with me having like a double chin on it. It looks awful. I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, that's not what I look like. I can't show this to anyone. And I immediately went into a shame cycle. And I see that happening with leaders on stage or on camera. You say something, it came out a bit weird. Ooh, where did my voice go up like this? Oh, yeah, squeak. My voice caught. Oh, I forgot a word. Oh, I said this word wrong. And we become slightly obsessed with having to be flawless versus allow yourself to be not perfect. And again, to me, there's a big difference between being comfortable with your imperfections and a clear lack of skill. So, how do we become so magnetic that people won't stop wanting to watch you? You want to develop your voice so that you have range of expression. Many leaders that I see have a very strong habitual delivery tone. HDT. I made that up. A habitual delivery tone is the pattern that your voice falls into when you are under perceived pressure, or when you are talking for a long time, or when you have the feeling that you're repeating yourself. So I have people introducing themselves, and they've done this 100,000 times, and they say something like, "Hi, my name is Evelyne Brink. I work as a leadership and expression expert. Leaders call me in to help them fix common presentation problems and deliver presentation skills." Well, if I say it like that, you're not going to believe me for starters. But you see what happens? It's because I've said it 100,000 times. My voice is giving away that I've said it before. My habitual delivery tone of saying something that's repeated sounded like that. Then there are the patterns that people have. Presentation patterns. You know when somebody is a seasoned presenter? Today, we are talking about the Q2 numbers and the strategies moving forward. And we have this specific way of emphasizing certain words. They can absolutely move counter the places that would make sense. We hear that a lot in news anchors. The idea is that it sounds professional because it's detached from emotion, but actually this habitual tone will entrance you and put you to sleep. So you want to develop a range of expression with your voice. That means that you can go up in pitch and low in pitch, that you can become louder and softer, that you become faster and slower, depending on where this makes sense. Now, everyone that you see talking about delivery will tell you to make a pause for impact. Yes, you want to have pauses, but also you don't want to be too slow that we fall asleep. So that's what I call the expressive range, or the vocal range. We want to increase the ability of being dynamic in our delivery so that it's more interesting to listen to us. You also want to really free your voice. A lot of leaders have never trained the instrument. I would like to argue that if you are in a leadership position and you speak regularly, you are a professional speaker. So wouldn't it make sense to train and free your instrument? A, for better and more resonant sound, and B, for sustainability. Some leaders call me in because they lose their voice when they go on stage or speak too much. Oh, I've just spoken too much. Well, yes, and you don't have the technique to sustain it. Or we have untrained voices that have vocal patterns and habits that are forcing them to be less sustainable. I'm exemplifying one here, the vocal fry. You have this a lot with speakers, often more at the end of the sentence, where they lose the energy by the end of the sentence. And so if I start constricting my throat and I speak to you in my more constricted throat, how long can you really listen to me before you get a bit grated yourself? Let me loosen that one up. So when somebody's voice is restricted, it makes it harder to listen. When somebody has a habitual delivery tone that is highly repetitive, it makes it harder to listen. When somebody has a tone that is a little more on the aggressive side and sounds like you're being told off, it makes it harder to listen. When somebody has a tone that reminds you more of a yoga class than a leadership meeting, it makes it harder to be taken seriously. So, in order to become irresistibly magnetic, you want to develop your range of expression to come alive when you are speaking. And that is a huge pleasure to develop with leaders. If you're interested in developing this range and becoming more authentic less flawless, but more skilled. And most of all, much, much, much more comfortable, really being yourself in the moments that matter most. Then you know where to find me. Email me at hello@brinkcoaching.com and let's talk. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon.